Good afternoon, good day, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to H&D Abroad. I am Herman.
I'm Dee, joining you all from my next house sitting adventure. We are so glad to be back, to be refreshed, and to lean into catching up with friends and family, including you. If you are new to our channel or you are returning, I see you in the chat. We are H&D Abroad, a 50 plus couple who are planning and executing our move. We are sharing our research. We're sharing the friendships that we've developed along the way and communities we've connected with. We are also, just giving you all of our story in real time, which can look a little bumpy. But that is reality, and that is what our channel is all about. So if you are interested in what the reality of a move abroad looks like, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell so that you are alerted for when we go live. We are live every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we always ask, if you are joining us live, say hello in the chat. If you are joining us in the replay, hello, replay gang. I want to first say Poetry is one of our replay gang. Sandra from Lack to Legacy is regular in the replay gang. Winsome, who is Big Up Yourself, is a part of the replay gang. I'm shouting you guys out because we want to say thank you. And we also want to say thank you to the folks that are in the chat. So you want to go ahead and do that before we get started?
Absolutely. Our faithful Tanya Brooks. Good to see you, Tanya. Hope you're having a great day today. Hey, Sam. Good to see you. Great video this week. Great video.
Yes.
Great video. My boy Kevin, what's happening with you? Good to see you, Kev. Aileen Brown, good to have you with us today. Miss Lori Butler is in the house. Hey, Lori. The great Dr. Linda. Good to see you, Doc. And Danielle Brooks, good to see you.
Hey, Danielle, good to see you guys.
So as everybody comes in, we'll try to get a chance to welcome you as you come in. So I always say, and I will take the minute to say now, these conversations are exactly that. They are conversations. It's not just Dee and I talking. It's just not Dee and I talking with our guests. This is a conversation that we're having between all the people you see on the screen and all the people in the chat, as well as those of you who comment later, because Dee and I always share. We always comment back to your comments. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have comments, even if you have questions for our guests, put it in the comments. We'll make sure that they see them. And they regularly go back and respond to those questions when we let them know. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to bring our family in. The family who I told them I was going to use their picture the next time we have a thumbnail, because I don't know if
So you guys know we have had Nikki and David Anderson on our channel before. We have put links to our previous conversations because we initially connected through Exodus Summit when Nikki said that she was looking at Spain, and I said, I'm looking at Spain. And I was like, hey, it's, what do they say? The African proverb is, if you want to go far, go together. And so that was our plan, was we were going to tutor English, teach English abroad together in Spain. And we still probably are going to be teaching abroad, but it may be in Mexico. It may be Mexico versus Spain. It may be we're in Spain and they're in Mexico, but their story is truly inspiring, especially what got them out the door. And that conversation about change and fast forward, if you all want to hear a story of why you need to be prepared to leave, that their story inspires. Be ready. Don't just get ready. Be ready, because in a week, we were just talking. She was like, I'm just out here just looking. And when Nikki says, I'm looking, David starts saying, he was like, I found a direct flight to our home city. And within a week, she went from looking for a job to interviewing for a job to having a job. And we thought it would be great for them to share their story now that over time they've been able to work through getting on the ground and then getting together. So
take a minute and tell us who you are.
Mazatlán, as we're starting at that part of the conversation, and then we'll work our way backward.
Okay. I'm David, and this is Nikki, and our page is It's a Wonderful Travel Life with Nikki and David, where you can see all of our adventures and all our excursions to figure out where we're going to land, and as we interview places. It's been a great adventure, and it's been enlightening. I'm encouraged by what we accomplished, and I can share with others to not be afraid of taking the leap.
Yes.
Nikki?
Yeah. And Nikki, the other part of It's a Wonderful Travel Life. And we have been in Mazatlán. I have been in Mazatlán since January, and my husband has been here since June, my husband and daughter. And the last time that we interviewed with H&D, we were interviewing in two separate locations. I was here, and David was back in the States, and he was taking care of things and wrapping and tying up loose ends and getting things ready so that he and our daughter can join us here. So they've been here since June 1st, but a whole lot has happened since June 1st. And we can say that we are finally feeling settled. We are settled in finally, and the rush of everything has slowed down. I'm on summer break. I go back to school on the 19th, so I'm enjoying my last week and a half of summer break before I go back to school.
Very good. I mean, you guys are, we are intentional about connecting with other couples that are in the move abroad process, especially Black couples, because I think, just knowing that we're not alone, and then also being able to talk with people who get it, who are part of our tribe, that say, everybody else thinks this is a little nuts. Yeah. I'm not retired. And why are you closing down a very productive, beneficial life here in the States, and picking up and moving to a country you probably are have to learn the language. There's so much that's so different. If you could each of you state why was it important to make the shift, the pivot at this point in your life?
Yeah. Okay, I'll start with that, babe. So as Dee had mentioned earlier, we were looking to move abroad anyway, but we had locked in on Spain, and we went to visit Spain, I want to say April of last year, and just fell in love with Spain. I mean, just fell in love with it. We made up our mind while we were there that we were going to move to Spain. And we had been looking at different places, and we had multiple countries on our list, but Mexico wasn't one of them. It just wasn't one of them. I never considered Mexico as a country to live in and teach in. Just never made the list. And I know now that part of the reason why it didn't make the list was because of the hype and all of the rumors about the safety and the dangers of living in Mexico, which, we can talk about that later maybe. But yeah, it is so not true. But anyway, So how I ended up coming about landing this job here, I was literally just on one of the websites one Sunday night, and one of the Teach Abroad websites, and I saw this position available, and I thought, I can apply for that. It's in Mexico, but I'm going to apply for it anyway. And I said to my husband, I said, look at this position. I'm going to apply for it. And he said, you know, you're going to get that job, right? And I just was like, well, I'm going to apply and see. And I hadn't thought anything else about it. I applied, and then that was Sunday night. Didn't think anything else about it. By Monday morning, there was a message. I had an email from the hiring manager that asked me if I was interested in interviewing for the position. And so I said, yeah. We set up the interview for Wednesday. By Thursday morning, she had offered me the position. And she said, but we need you to start January. And this was October when this happened. So we went from having June 2024 be our move date, because we were planning to move to Spain in around June, to now January. And I needed to report January 4th to be exact. So we had a lot to do. We had a lot to do in a little short amount of time. And so, you know, we talked to the kids, we talked with each other, we prayed about it. And we both decided that this is a good move and that we should do it. We knew it was going to be hard. We didn't know. And of course, nobody would know just how hard it's going to be until you actually get in there and do it. And living apart was not fun for 6 months. And we are never, ever living apart again. About killed him. Yeah. We're never doing this again. We're going to figure out something where we never have to do that again. But we did it. And it was successful. And, you know, it was a struggle, though, because I was here alone. But I wasn't alone because I had community. I had gotten myself in community before I moved here. So, you know, but he was back home still taking care of the girls that were still in school. We had 2 girls in high school. And, you know, it was tough. It was tough on them. It was tough on him. It was tough on me. But we stuck with the plan, and we did it. And here we are. Go ahead and talk about your side, baby.
And to balance out how tough it was, based on the reward, it's worth it. But when you're in the process, you have to remind yourself what the reward is, right? On the other side of it, I do it all over again. I do it again if it was twice as hard, because the reward is just so amazing that until you're in that new space, breathing new air, being in a new culture that is embracing. The people here are just embracing. I mean, my goodness, they're so accepting and helpful. Not to mention the expat community here. Our people are everywhere, so you're gonna find us, and when you find them, they find you, and they will surround you. So you're not on your own. But on how hard it was, we knew just because of the short time period. If you had more time to plan, it would be easier because you could go over all the logistics and ins and outs. But we had to do this quickly, so it was harder, but doable. You just keep reminding yourself what the prize is, the reward. So as we got all these things done, as we both talked about how this was a little emotionally tough to do, we remind ourselves that why we were doing it. That was for a good reason, and we would get this done. I would say to allow yourself to breathe in a new space, as I hear my brothers and sisters say all the time. Get yourself in a new space. See yourself in a new light, in a new community. That what you consider to be acceptable, you're conditioned to accept it where you are. Be brave and branch out. Go somewhere else and see for yourself how life is in that place. Get off the resorts, meet people where you go, and see how do they deal with what you perceive is the hardships in that area, whatever country you go to, and you'll find out they don't consider it hard. And then their reality is they share it with you, you realize it isn't what you thought or what you were taught.
Yeah.
That all the conditions here. Spain was a big eye opener. When we went to Spain and we had to get used to that pace, they like, hey, slow down a lot. Slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down. We're gonna stop you on the sidewalk. We don't speak the same language, but we're gonna have a conversation. That they're like gonna take the time out of their day to have a hard conversation, because I considered it was going to be hard, but they made it easy. So share with other people in the countries you visit, and get a good feel for how they live, and just try to go at their pace. And that was an eye opener. So Spain was a good primer for Mexico, because a lot of the stuff is the same. Mm-hmm. Hey, slow down, brother, slow down.
And they slowed all the way down.
All the way down.
Yeah.
One of our brothers here, he says, Mexico is not going to change for you. You have to change for Mexico.
Yes.
You can be frustrated because things don't move fast, or you can just relax in it and get in that pace, get in that rhythm. Things will happen. Things will get done. But what we're accustomed to is not here.
Not at all.
But it's better. I think it's better. It's healthier. We had a little some bumps along the way getting here, as far as the logistics of moving the furniture, whatever we moved. That list got smaller as we went over time. We just started cutting things out and shedding material things.
And I wanted to talk about that too, because I'm glad that I'm part of the Exodus Summit community as well, because I've watched several, even your videos and several of the other sisters' videos about, don't bring a bunch of stuff. Leave your stuff behind. Get rid of your stuff. And that prepared us, because we got rid of a lot of stuff. We sold stuff. We gave away stuff. We literally went to our next door neighbor and asked them if they needed a bedroom suit, because we just want to give you a bedroom suit if you want it. And they were like, yes, have at it. We gave away. We tried to clear that house out. Two houses. As much as possible. Mm-hmm. And, we still ended up having to we have a small storage. We still have that. But eventually we're going to go back and clean that out. But if you remember, we had to move quickly.
Yeah.
And so we didn't bring furniture. The furniture that we brought was the chair that he's sitting in. We both have 2 office chairs, and his musical equipment and his photography equipment. And that's the furniture that we brought.
Yeah.
And we're so glad that we didn't, because, even though the home that we're in is a pretty good sized house, it came furnished already. So it had everything that we needed, which works for us. Mm-hmm. So we didn't need to bring furniture, and I'm glad that we didn't. So for those of you that are listening, and you've heard, like me, multiple times from multiple sources, leave your stuff at home. Don't bring your furniture. Just don't bring it. Just don't bring it. Not at all.
So I'm going to jump in. Oh, I'm sorry, Dee.
Well, there are a couple of things that I wanted to bring out about that part of the conversation. Getting rid of your stuff means the less that you have to put in storage, the cheaper the storage is.
Yes.
Have a plan to get, to let that part go.
Mm-hmm.
But I also heard you saying that it was better for the release, just the whole process of letting it go and being okay with that.
Yes.
Things, I feel like, from our perspective, as we get closer to 2025 when we're launching, I'm just like, it's not worth it. Let it go.
Yes.
If it's not selling, let it go. Just let it go, because I don't want to have to pay for storage, or I want to pay for as little as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're going to try to walk through a few things. I want to start with the teenager.
Yes.
The conversation about teens. Herman, did you want to interject before we start?
Yeah, I want to go back. I actually want to go back a little further than that. First, let me say, I am what I consider to be an optimist and a realist.
Uh-huh.
And I have to say that Dave is my mentor at another level. He is, in my opinion, how a partner cheerleads their partner in the efforts that they do, the things they do. I tell Dee all the time, whatever it is she wants to do, she can do that. And watching Dave boost the opportunities that Nikki has been vitally refreshing and encouraging to me. Dave is one of the people I called when we were discussing whether or not to separately go to Spain for the NowCap program, because I wanted to hear his voice in as a husband, particularly as a husband, dealing with, we as men address life differently. There are components that I think women compartmentalize their physical selves into spaces that sometimes we don't know how to compartmentalize ourselves. We don't know how to compartmentalize our energies and our spaces. And when we are away from our energy soulmate, we can be discombobulated. So I called Dave and was like, how do you make this transition? How was the transition for you? And I want to say publicly that I appreciate the counsel you shared with me in that transition. And I kind of want to start in that conversation before we jump to your children is how did you make that conversation work? Because, you encouraged an opportunity, and then it was an opportunity that you had to approach as individually. Mm-hmm. How did you have that conversation approaching to, because a lot of couples are moving together, or and so you had to go in pieces. We hear you saying that was tough. How did you approach that conversation?
We looked at it as the opportunity and the sacrifice. The opportunity, in order for us to avail ourselves of the opportunity, there's going to be sacrifice. Some of the comfort that we were accustomed to was going to be diminished, and we go into it with that on paper. Now, in execution, that's the reality of it, is a little rough. But you did have the conversation, and we talked about it. We expected it, but we didn't like it. But we knew that based on being thoughtful and being prayerful, what the outcome was going to be, and stayed optimistic about that. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Now, ours was an extreme situation. I wouldn't say anybody to take. It's not a cautionary note. We had to do everything quickly, but also we recognized that the door was open, mm-hmm. right? So we knew there's going to be some sacrifice to get this done. So we took, when hard times came, and emotional hard times came, and loneliness and the stress of it, we talked it out. We did things to balance things out. We talked constantly all day, FaceTime. And we FaceTime every night. Sometimes go to sleep together, yes. Have dinner together, mm-hmm. Try to watch the same shows at the same time together. Yeah. Technology really made a lot of it possible, because you can still share. It wasn't the same as having her next to me, but it was something where we could talk about our hopes and fears of that day, or encourage each other and say, this is something I found out today in Mexico that you're going to love when you get here. I would say that how good the girls were doing and how they were excited about what we were doing. And agreeing together that we know what we're going into, have a good idea that we're going into a bit of a struggle, but it was going to be worth it. Always that it's going to, eyes on the prize, it's going to be worth it.
And then we also acknowledged the pain in it. Mm-hmm. There was times that I was really frustrated and upset, and it wouldn't have been that bad had he been here with me. But because I was here alone and I had to handle this by myself, I'm upset, and I could talk to him about it. We're FaceTiming, and he sees I'm visually upset, and just him being able to think about things that my mind cannot think about because I'm in it and I'm upset about what this thing is. And then he can give me other ways to think about it, or other things to think about, trying to help solve whatever it was. he was able to do that. And at the same time, I was able to do that for him when he was having a struggle at home, you know, whether it was with the girls or whether it was himself emotionally or whatever. We were able to do this with each other still. And, you know, we always said, look, if I have to get on a plane and head home, I will.
Right.
Not a problem. And, you know, and he'd say, if I will get on a plane, do I need to get on a plane? And I'd say, no, you know, I don't think it's that bad. But we knew that was an option. And because that was an option, we held on to that too. And that helped.
And it was real. She knew I'd drop everything. If she needed me to be physically here, I'd drop everything and do it. And I knew that was a real thing. She would drop everything and come back. Sometimes I felt unequipped to help the girls. They come home and say, talk to me about an emotional thing. I'm like, oh wow, you know, let's call your mom. But as H, you say it all the time, man. You say how we think differently. We think the husbands, we think differently. So when she would call upset about something, I would kind of translate what I thought about it and walk her through. This is why I think this is a solution to this. And then when I call her about something on the home front of our side, she would walk me through, okay, this is what I think you should do. So it's an understanding that we think differently, but there's a benefit to understanding each other and listening to, oh, this is how I should do that. It never occurred to me. And the things I come up with, that never occurred to me to do that. So yeah, it will build your communication skills. I say that.
That's absolutely. I'm sure. Did you set a deadline? You know, we'll be apart until this time. So you had a.
Oh yeah.
We were counting down every day. We were counting it down. It's like your birthday or Christmas. That the closer you get, the more excited and anxious. I want this to be done.
Yeah.
Trust me, I was messaging Nikki. I was like, I'm calling you before you go home for your Christmas break, because I know I'm not going to bother you till you're on the plane headed back.
Yes, it was so exciting. And I went home, so we weren't separated for 6 months straight. I got to go home for
spring break. That's right, it was spring break.
The second time I went home was to get them, to bring my family back. So. But each time the build up to the coming home was so excited, you know, it was exciting. And, you know, being able to see him at the airport, see my girls. And it was just, that part was so exciting and rewarding and worth it, you know, and then the reintroduction of each other the night that I get there, you know, that was always exciting too.
Let the church say, amen.
Amen. We had the initial plan. Our initial plan was to see each other every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know it was optimistic, just a flowery outlook on it. Yeah. But as we got into the logistics, like, wow, that's just not possible.
Yeah.
It's foolhardy, you know.
And so 30 days. Okay, let's do that. No. And then we got down to just a couple of opportunities here and there. The closer we got to the end date, where the more stuff we would shed, the more material things we would shed, things that we thought we have to keep this. Boy, that stuff just started shedding, just flecking off. That it wasn't worth it. It didn't, like, wow, this is something I'm emotionally tied to, but why? And a lot of it was just the way marketing in America says something's important, tells you what's important and what everybody should have. You should have this because so-and-so has it, so you should have it too. So a lot of stuff, it was just stuff. I'm like, why do I have all this stuff?
It was one item that I was and still am emotionally tied to, and that was my mother's armoire. She has an armoire that's like, it comes to my chest really tall, and it's filled with jewelry. And at first the plan was to bring it. We were going to ship this. We were going to bring it. I was going to bag up all the jewelry and bring it here. And the closer we got to leaving, then I decided No, it means too much for me to ship it and have something happen in the shipping. So I didn't want that to happen. So I thought, well, I think I'd rather store it safely here and then, decide later what I want to do. But I know as time goes, and my mother passed away in 2020, so it's been 4 years, but I am still pretty attached to that armoire because of what it meant to her. And I, saw this in her life, and I just can't get rid of it. So I probably won't get rid of it. I'll give it to one of my daughters or something. But I do realize that I will part with it, and I will need to part with that someday. But I'm glad I didn't bring it here, and I'm glad I decided not to ship it because A, there's really no room for it here, and B, there could have been some issues with having it shipped here. We had some issues with some shipping.
We're definitely gonna get to that part of the conversation.
We're gonna definitely get to that. We've got some questions. I'm probably gonna go ahead and have you address because Aileen Brown is saying that she's been interested in Mazatlán. I've shared that we wanted to drive up from, when we were visiting PV. Yeah. So she's got a scouting trip question.
Yeah, and Kevin has a question.
Yep. So how long of a scouting trip did you do? Did you all do a scouting trip?
No.
Did you stay in different areas?
Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to do a scouting trip because remember they called in October and wanted me to report in January. So we didn't have the money that we had. We knew that money was accounted for. We didn't have time to do a scouting trip before we got here. So we got here 4 days before I had to report to work, and that was our scouting trip. We were here, and so we haven't stayed in different areas at all. No, we've been to Mexico before, but we've only stayed here in Mazatlán. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as scouting, as scouting goes, I came 10 days and was able to get a good feel for the city. Of course, I'm looking at floodplains and all the technical stuff, why we should live where we live. Convenience, safety, modern amenities, things like that. How do you want your initial introduction to be? I say you can move here with some of the amenities that you're used to in the States to acclimate yourself, and then get to know the local people, see how they live, which is always my goal. I want to live like the locals because I intend to live here. I'm not a visitor. I intend to be part of the community. I intend to have extended families here. And so scouting, having a time frame to be scouting would be great, but we didn't have that. Ours was more of a rush. But as you travel more, you start to see what you know what you like and what you can tolerate, and you get to feel. So I encourage people to travel more. Get off the resort, start, get an Airbnb somewhere in the community, something where you can feel real life in that setting.
I do want to say, I think if we had the time, we would have gotten an Airbnb and we would have spent, I would say, at least 30 days here, traveling around the city and getting a feel for the areas that we wanted to live in. Because that didn't happen, of course, until after we got here. And we had to really rely on the word of the real estate agents, and that was tough for us because we know that they got a job to do, that they need to get the money. So they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear so that they can land the sale or the rental or the lease. So we did that, and fortunately, it worked out. But this is the second or third place. This is the second place we've lived. This place. The first place was on the marina, a real beautiful place.
Gorgeous.
It was gorgeous. I only lived there a month by myself because being on the marina in an already humid climate meant mold. There's going to be mold. And I'm a severe asthmatic. And I had been sick for like a couple weeks and didn't know why I was sick and had seen the doctor and all that good stuff. And long story short, I woke up one morning and I literally sat up on the side of the bed and looked at the wall and noticed that it was just black all across it. And then it was like it just showed up because it wasn't there the day before, at least not that dark where I could see it. The whole wall was covered with mold. And I, ended up talking to the landlord. She did, offer to get it fixed and did get it fixed. But when her brother, who had built this place, he told me something he shouldn't have told me and showed me, which was that the unit that was right next door to us was covered with the whole place is mold. There's nobody in there because the mold had taken over and now it's creeping into our unit. And he showed me the pictures of the unit next door. And he said it's going to keep happening like this until the owners of that unit, get this problem fixed. And I moved out that Friday was my last night there. And I moved out the following week. I was gone. Yeah. So
that makes complete sense because your safety is primary.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember you joining the Mazatlán group. I was like, hey, you're here. But, if you can't do a scouting trip, to Aileen Brown, if you're thinking about doing a scouting trip there, Guadalajara, Kevin's in the chat, get to know folk beforehand because Nikki said, I found this mold. This is life-threatening. I got to go. You reach out to your community. And they came forward with so much information and support. So doing that groundwork ahead of time has paid off in dividends. They landed when you're in community. Y'all did a volunteer.
We did.
Y'all did a volunteer day within 48 hours of being on the ground.
Landing. Yes, we were out volunteering. And it was so much fun. Yes, we did. It was the community that moved me because remember, David was gone by then. It was just me by myself. I told them I needed help. They said, say less. Swarmed. They just came over, packed up our stuff, packed me up, and we got moved out within an hour. And they got me moved in here. And everything else I needed help with, we've needed help with. They've been there. We've just been able to help each other at this point too. So thank God for being in that community before we even got here.
Okay. In relationship to community, Kevin has a question. I'll bring it back up here. I don't know if you had a chance yet, David, to really research. Are there many brothers who live there?
Absolutely. It's true. We are everywhere. I ran into your brother yesterday when I was at the post and ship picking up our mail. I ran into your brother just walking down the street. I said, that's a brother. Hey, man. He was in a hurry. He rushed by, but I didn't get any contact information. But I met in grocery stores, people, there's a lot of us here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One day, me and one of the ladies in the group or in the community, we were having breakfast and we were sitting outside enjoying breakfast and conversation. And there was this Black man walking down the street. He's just walking, but he's coming towards the restaurant. And he noticed us right when we noticed him. And he just made his way on over to us. And he says, well, hey, how y'all doing? And we're like, how you doing? And he's like, wow, there's a lot more Black people here. We're like, yeah. And so we talked to him and invited him because he wasn't part of the Blacks in Mazatlán community. We invited him to that. And he's now part of the group. He's in the WhatsApp groups, but he's been here, he said, for a year, a little over a year, and he didn't even know that the Blacks in Mazatlán group had even existed. So, yeah, and every once in a while, we or other members of the group will catch Black people here that's been here that knew nothing about each other and the group. And we'll just pull them on in the phone.
Yeah, that connection is, I think, very important. And I think, unfortunately, like you said, when you're making plans independently, or you are watching, how do I say it? the general information stream of information.
Well said.
You're looking at the general stream of information. It doesn't direct you to us to each other. And
Right.
having said that, I also think that we have to step into those areas a little more and then reconnect back out. I think we do well at joining our own communities, but we need to find a way to integrate it into those communities and then making each other known to our more specific communities. And I think that's helpful. I think we're either or a lot of times, which means somebody's missing out.
Sure.
And I think, that's a great question by Kevin, because I think as men, we really suffer with that.
Yeah.
Because that's not, I don't know about, maybe I'm generalizing. I don't know if that's our natural tendency to try to find things. A lot of guys in those groups, they got a different agenda. Or are accused of having a different agenda, which then frighten off guys who might step into that kind of platform.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something we should stretch out. There's a question. Dang.
I want to comment on that too.
Okay.
Apparently, there are a lot of things for men in Mazatlán, and I'm gonna shout out your dad, Nikki.
Oh, that man.
The dating scene is hot and ready in Mazatlán.
Oh yeah. That man,
I don't think it was on the ground for very long, and he enjoyed himself. David took him to get a haircut. I mean, if you need the things done and you're looking for fellowship, with other like-minded people, Mazatlán could definitely be your place. Your dad is talking about he's coming a little bit more often.
Oh yeah, he's coming back in November for his birthday, and he's going to stay through after Christmas for my birthday, and he's thinking about moving here too. Yeah, he called himself having a little not a girlfriend, but they spending time together, a lot of time together.
For the grown and sexy, yay.
And what he said, my father said something that just it just melted both of our hearts to hear my father say this. My father is 75 years old. He'll be 76 in November, but he's very young-minded and got a lot of energy still. But he said being here in Mazatlán, he said the sun just makes me feel young again. He said, I feel young all over again. And to hear him say that and have so much excitement in his voice and pep in his step, he had lost all that because my mother passed. And he's been with this woman since he was 17 years old. They were married for 55 years. And he's getting his, what do you call that? When the man finds
his mojo
back. And I'm excited for him. It would be that quick, but he's getting it back.
Me and him would spend a lot of time just moving around and seeing things, and he was sharing with me. It was exciting to see him kind of come back to life and get a lot of energy. He goes, I just feel young. The sun is just bringing my life back. And just the general environment and the people. He said, everybody's just so friendly. Yeah.
So the groove is not just for Stella, huh? Hey.
No. James has got his groove back too.
Yeah. All right. I think this question is to you, Nikki. What is it like teaching in Mexico?
It has taken some getting used to, and I'm still getting used to it. I came into a unique situation, and I realized on hindsight now why they needed somebody right away. And I came in and I did the job, thank God. But I came in to a classroom, a grade 5 classroom that they had not one, not two, but 3 other teachers before me. And the teachers just couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with the behavior. They couldn't deal with, now some of them, granted, one of the teachers was fresh out of school. She graduated, they called her for the job. She showed up. She never had any teaching experience. That she got scared away. The next teacher, she just found out that I don't want to do this anymore. That's what she said. I don't want to teach anymore. So she left. And then the other teacher was a retired teacher, and She came and stayed a little while, but something happened with her husband, so she left. And then they got me. I came into this classroom because they had had 3 other teachers, there was no structure, there was no expectation. The kids were literally running around the room and throwing stuff at each other when I walked in that morning. And I just was like, oh boy, well, what do I do? They said, here you go. This is your classroom. I thank God I was able to pull on my 18 years of teaching experience. I've taught 2nd grade, I've taught 5th grade, I've taught middle school, and I've taught college. So I was able to pull from my toolbox and use what I knew to do in order to get this classroom in order. First of all, we needed some order in this room. And I brought that in and was able to, these kids did a complete 180, 360, 180. They just turned it all the way around. And it was so amazing that every day for the first 2 weeks, the other teachers were asking me, are you going to stay? Are you going to stay? Are you sure you're going to stay? Are you going to leave them? I was like, no, I'm staying. I'm here. I'm going to finish this job. And I did. But by the end of the year, the kids that everybody just turned their back on and rejected told me that I was their favorite teacher, and their parents. I had gotten so many gifts. This is one of the gifts I got from a parent. They were thanking me, and it was a different experience. I love teaching the group of kids. Now, the hardest part of teaching in Mexico, even though my job is to teach English, you do need to know some Spanish. You need to know the basics of Spanish. And I had some basic, but when you are teaching children who struggle with their own language, Spanish, and then you have to teach them English, and you struggle with Spanish, that was very difficult for me to navigate. I had a basic level of Spanish, but this couple of students didn't even understand their own language. And they shouldn't have been in a regular class, but that's just kind of the way it's set up here. They needed extra help that we did not have for them. I'm looking forward to going back in a week and a half. I'm really looking forward to it because A, it's a new classroom. B, I get to start the year with the class, and they're doing something different this year that they didn't do in previous years, which is it's the Alberta program I teach for the Canadian program. They're letting the Alberta program start first and the Spanish, the SET program, start the following week. So we get a whole week of spending time with and getting to know our students in our classroom before the Spanish teachers come in the following week. So I'm looking forward to establishing, routines and relationships in week 1, getting them ready to go.
Nikki kind of glossed over some of the highlights that I admire her for. There were some particular students who they're like, there's no point in bothering with him anymore. He's not going to do any more than he's ever done. He's stuck where he is. He's a problem child. He's just always going to be. And watching that kid turn around.
Yeah, he did. He turned it around, and I always said, these kids aren't bad. These are not bad kids. They just need somebody to listen to them and talk to them and, sit down with them. I did all that. I created something called the Scream something. I forget how I titled it. But what it was if you need to scream, sometimes we just feel like we want to cry, we want to shout, we want to scream. Then, come up to me, Miss Nikki, I need to scream. And I say, go. And then there's a designated place outside the room that's outside that you can scream your head off. You can cry. You can do whatever you want. When you come back in, you're ready to learn. And nobody makes fun of you and nobody laughed at them. And everybody wanted to use this. Everybody needed to use this. And that little boy, that particular one, he would use it a lot until he stopped using it. He didn't need to go scream and yell anymore. And he, hated being there. He hated his life. But that little boy, I spent a lot of time with him because I realized all he needs is for somebody to talk to him. And I would sit and talk to him and be on the floor, laying down, writing with him and all that. And nobody's ever done that because of his behavioral issues
Yeah.
that they perceive that he has, and he had
Let
some.
me get some water.
He had some, but I'm a mother of 5, and I've taught hundreds and hundreds of kids. So I knew how to tap into that, and I knew when I recognized that what to do. And to me, it was just what I do, and it wasn't a big deal to me. And I share those stories with him when I come home, and he's amazed by it, and I'm amazed too. But I don't take credit for any of it. I'm just there to do a job and be me.
We take for granted, we forget the old saying that bad attention is still attention.
Yes.
And no matter where you are in the world, the number of unattended to children, sometimes just simply out of the structure of how classrooms have to be set up and what teachers have and are capable of doing in a structure, somebody gets left out. And if that child is additionally left out at home for whatever reason, or if they're the only child and there's nobody to care for them, or they're one of a string of kids, and so there's just a bunch of them, they go from one bunch of kids to the next bunch of kids. There's so many things that are lost, and that extra attention and normalizing emotions.
Yeah.
Normalizing emotions where your anger is okay, your frustration is okay, your fear is okay. And everybody, because a lot of kids who make fun of that are the ones who are afraid to also express that. And to find out, hey, I can express that too. That's not funny.
That's right.
And so you normalize something that the class then as a whole could utilize. I applaud you. As the son of a teacher, I highly applaud you on that, because that is something that I have taken into my work well. It's why I went into behavioral sciences with an emphasis on child and adolescent development, because I think that foundational piece sets them up regardless. So I applaud you.
Especially because it was a male. When I heard you talking about that this was helpful to 5th grade is a pivot year.
It is.
And so knowing that you were investing, and that to hear a young man able to work through that is transformative.
Absolutely.
But as we know, in the Exodus Summit community, we do not consider moving abroad for trying to find a local job. But
right.
This is a great question from Sam about, are you able to maintain your life with your teacher's salary there?
Yes. Now, the teacher's salary, it's a pretty good salary. Now, compared to the U.S., not at all. So we're just going to take that comparison off the table. But for the cost of living here in Mexico,
it's great.
Let me put it in this perspective. I get paid more than the doctors do here. So my salary is more than the doctor's salaries here. I get paid more than the police, get paid more than the doctors, and I'm right up there next to the lawyers. And it's not a really high salary. Right. So that just goes to show that the salaries here in Mexico, throughout Mexico, are low. They're low. But the cost of living is low as well. So yes, I can absolutely, live off my salary. It always helps to have a partner with extra income. We don't have to tap into our savings to live off of, because we can live off of mine or we can live off of his. We do mostly live off of one. And now we have something new that we've added to it starting next week is my daughter's tuition. Yeah, she's going to school and she's going to go to a private school, and there's tuition. That's where now I think if I had to do this tuition and just live on my salary, I would have to dip into my savings for sure. But having my husband's income to help, we still don't have to touch the savings, even with that, even with the tuition coming into play.
Excellent. That's a great prelude. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, factoring in the cost of living, it's almost shocking what you can get for your dollar here.
Yeah.
And I go to the local I go to Walmart to get staples in places Soriana to get staples, but I get my fish, my produce, eggs, and stuff from local markets where the farmers bring their products in, and you just go there and pick out what you want. The quality is astounding, and the price is just shockingly cheap. So you can maintain your health, eat healthy without spending a whole lot of money. You can get fresh fish every day. I mean, fresh, like right out of the water. You just go down to the beach and these guys show up every morning, and everybody just goes down there and buys. I want that fish. They clean it, put it in bags for you, and you go home. The produce, you can't beat Mexico for produce. I'm telling you, there's nothing to compare to it in the States, other if you're in Florida to eat this, some of the citrus. But I think the citrus is even better here. This is just very more natural volcanic soil and all that. So everything's just better.
My father,
that's definitely a possibility, because we walked past a fruit stand one morning. We were getting our visas.
Yeah,
and I could identify each of the fruits from the smell walking by them. And he was mashing them up in the dish, and I could tell, oh, he's got so and so in there.
Yeah, as a chef yourself, as a cook, you see the quality of it. Like you can work miracles with this food. I mean,
oh yeah.
I was about to say that my father, he left last week. He was here for almost a month with us, and we had bought a watermelon last week, and we were eating the watermelon. My dad said that was the best watermelon he's ever had in his life. And I was talking to him one day this week, and he said, I'm still thinking about that watermelon that I had. I can't wait to get back there to get some watermelon. He said, that's the best I've ever had. And I'm like, and that's something coming from my father who loves watermelon. And it's 70, almost a 76-year-old man saying that this is the best watermelon he's ever tasted before. Yeah.
As far as the produce, it reminds me, I lived in Huntsville probably maybe 6 years. With our community gardens we have down there, the produce is like going out to your own garden and getting your bell peppers, your collard greens, and just getting it out of your own garden. It's like all the produce is like that. There's nothing that's been manipulated. Very nice.
So let's prelude into. I see Kevin's question, because we're going to transition to that in a minute. But let's. Before we go away, let's transition to the conversation about your children. What this process has been like for them, especially with one being on the ground in Mexico with you. Because I think that'll segue us into the Mazatlán as a whole conversation. Let's give that a little light. You call your kids together and say, mom's leaving, and then you're on the ground and the baby's there, and you just talked about tuition in private school. Give us a little bit of background with that, if you don't mind.
Yes. So when we had talked about earlier, when we said we talked to the kids about this decision, and they were excited about Spain. They were just so excited about going to Spain. But then when it changed to Mexico, they didn't have enough background knowledge about Mexico, so they couldn't get as excited. But they were okay. They were happy about it, but that excitement wasn't there because they didn't know about it. They acted okay all the way up until it was time for me to leave. And the day before I left, my daughters were going with their fathers. And the youngest one, the 15-year-old, she just cried so hard and so loud and broke my heart, and made me contemplate at that moment changing my mind because of how she took it. Of course, we got her all together. We talked, and I made the move here. And what I did was stayed in close contact with the girls, and we FaceTime every day. We talked every day, multiple times. So we got through that. Now fast forward to us being here. So the 15-year-old turned 16 here. She turned 16 on July 16th. And I checked in with her right before her birthday, and I asked her, I said, so what do you feel now that you've been here for over a month? How do you feel about Mexico? How do you feel about Mazatlán? do you like it? Just say it, and don't think you're gonna hurt my feelings. Just tell me the truth. I want to know what you really feel. And she said, no, I really like it here. She said, every day I just can't believe I live here. I live here. I wake up to this place every day. And I jokingly said, well, shall I pinch you? And she's like, no, Mom. And I said, so you seriously are okay? You don't miss being home? She said, I miss my friends, but it's not like I miss them bad enough to want to go home. And I was shocked to hear that one say it, because she's the baby of the family and all of her siblings are gone. They've grown up and got their own lives, and she's here with us. And I thought that would be a struggle for her. And it has not been. We've met some friends for her. She spent time with friends. She gets to do pretty much whatever she wants. So she has acclimated very well. She is in Spanish classes as well. She went just yesterday to the new student orientation at her school. Came back just talking so much, I couldn't shut her up at all. Just had the best time. So she's doing good, and she's happy to be here. I'm hoping that continues when she starts school and has to go every day, and the work, kicks in.
Because her courses are her courses primarily in Spanish, in English, a blend?
That's a good question. The school that she goes to or will be going to is both a university and a high school together. So the high school is on the first and second level. The university is on the third level. Big, beautiful building, beautiful campus. Mm-hmm. And they teach her, she will get her lessons 50% in English, 50% in Spanish. And they won't make any, they're not going to make excuses for her because she doesn't know, she's not fully bilingual, but they will help, and her friends will help. And they know that she's not a fluent Spanish speaker. They know that she can speak a little. And, they said that's okay. She doesn't have to be fluent in Spanish, but we do want you to know that they won't make exceptions for her just because she's not fluent,
So it will be immersive.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Fastest way to learn. I know, because I'm thinking about the people that are in our audience that have children, and I think the school environment and helping them to connect to local peers is super important.
Oh, yeah.
Because I notice when they are college age and older, it takes a little bit more, like the effort is, they have to put forward a little bit more effort to find people their age and connect with them. So I think moving abroad when your children are smaller, are younger, or when they're school age might actually be more preferred than when they're, 17, 18, 19, when they're in that transition years, because they don't connect to the youth as much. And it could be a barrier. So when you were, setting things up, we've talked about it before, but I wanted to mention that as a bridge as well, working with their father, with the move. Because I hear a lot of people saying, I can't leave because I have a partner. I mean, I have my children's other parent isn't on board or is on board, but is cautious. Do you have any words for this conversation about navigating that?
Yeah. Now, and it's funny because my ex-husband, the children's father, he was on board with them moving abroad and traveling with me wherever. It's never been a problem. And probably about 2 weeks before we moved here, he thought he was going to try something. And I'm still surprised that he did this. He tried it. He wrote me saying, I'm not going to sign off on her to be able to move abroad. I don't want her to live away in Mexico for 2 years. That's just too long. And I said, well, at the time, I didn't say anything, but I had done my research and found out that I didn't need to have his permission. So for those of you that don't know, and you have kids, and you have their father or their mother who does not want them, and they think they're going to hold it over your head, you don't have to have permission from the other parent. Long as the parent they're traveling with one parent, that's a requirement. They have to be traveling with one parent. You're supposed to provide proof. I was telling Dee I was panicking because I didn't have what was it, the birth certificate or something. It was the proof that I didn't have right at the moment, and I needed to get it before our flight. And so you do need to be able to prove you're the parent and have that documentation. Well, I had that, but you don't have to have a letter written from the other parent giving permission for that child to move or to come and travel abroad with you. So when he says, I'm not going to give permission, I just said, okay, and nothing else. I never said anything else because I had already learned just literally probably a day before he did that I didn't need his permission. But I wasn't expecting him to do that. I really wasn't, because he's been pretty cordial throughout this whole thing. And so I never said anything. Well, the night before we traveled to Mexico, he knew he hadn't heard from me, and we were planning on getting on that plane. All of a sudden, my son travels to the city that we were living in at the time. He travels with this letter, handwritten letter. No, it was typed out, and his signature, and he had taken it and got it notarized, giving permission for her to come and move with us. And so he changed his mind. I mean, I know the real reason why he changed his mind. I mean, I was married to this man 20 years, so he knows me very well. And if I was quiet, there's some danger in that. There's some danger in me getting quiet. And I got quiet. And he knew that he had to do something, and he did. So, yeah, but I didn't need it. I didn't need it at all, but I have it. He wrote it. I took it and didn't need it at all. So, yeah.
At least in Illinois. Is it Illinois or?
No, it's from Mexico. Anybody traveling coming
Mexico.
Into Mexico.
Okay, Mexico.
Yeah, you did not have to have that. Not at all.
That's important to know. We've also had a conversation with another sister that's in the We Out community that you and I are part of, Nikki, where we talked about the passport issue, because that comes up. You know, I'm trying to get a passport, for my children, and my partner isn't on board. And I was like, that should not be a reason why you don't move. And here are the receipts and folks that are saying, look, I don't have ill intent. I'm not trying to necessarily take the child away from the parent, but I should have the right to, in good conscience and, with the knowledge of the parent, to know that I'm leaving. I need my child to have a passport.
Yeah.
And also to do that when terms are good, because people will be people.
Yeah.
And we'll try to, we'll tell you, I'm on board, and then try to leverage their permission when you least expect it. So know what's out there, do your research.
And this is a caveat, ladies and gentlemen, for communication. This is a caveat for communication. All right, we want to say here when you are having a communication, because sometimes, we've talked before about there's some people you tell and there's some people you don't tell.
Yes.
This is one of those points where you have a level of conversation that's important, because you want it to be as amicable as possible.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I can say that I did not hear Nikki say that she was trying to, usurp parenthood. That's not what I heard her say. So I'm supporting you in that statement. I'm saying that as a father here, because I think that often is, there's often that missing piece there. And I want to say that that's not, let's have amicable conversations and amicable decisions in these, because that is a delicate pace, because we are still raising children. We are still raising children. And so I commend your approach to that.
Yeah. There was always full transparency the whole way.
Oh yeah.
Had a face-to-face conversation with him about what the intent was.
And we've always worked together, and we're still working together, so much so that we're trying to get him here to Mexico so that he can visit her, and we're going to put them up in a nice place, Airbnb, so that he can spend time with her here, and he's holding himself up by, kind of taking his time on getting his passport. But we've talked to him. I told him, I need you to get this passport so that you can be here. You just get here and we'll put you guys up.
The pathway's there.
Yeah. So we still work together with him. It's just,
Absolutely.
I don't know what he was thinking that day. But yeah, we still work together. We have to co-parent, the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
Now it was two, but now it's just one that we're co-parenting. Yeah.
Very good.
You decided to let things go. Go ahead. I
No,
don't know.
go.
Another question.
Yeah, we got this one from Kevin.
Okay.
Can you share where you live and then what your neighborhood is like, and use the marina as a landmark?
Okay. Yeah.
You want to do that? Or?
Sure. So we live in what's called the New Mazatlán, and it's North Mazatlán. There's a Walmart Marina. We have two Walmarts here, and there's Walmart Marina. We are past Walmart Marina, and the Mazatlán is growing, and this subdivision is only like 5 years old. Then we live in what's called Santera, Sontera 1. There's a Santera 2. There's a Santera 3 that's still being built. So we are north, away from the major part of the city. Mm-hmm. It's quiet where we live. The marina. How far would you say we are from the marina?
We're about 6 miles.
6 miles from the marina.
Yeah. But we're in the hill country. We're in the hill area, so we're elevated. So we kind of look down on the rest of it.
Yeah.
But the marina was more like as a landmark. Yeah, we're 6 miles from the coast. The marina was right on the water. It was Isla Marina, the island of the marina. So we were on an island. When we looked out our balcony, we looked right down into the water, the sailboat slips and all that. Just this beautiful morning coffee spot. I loved it. But it was a resort kind of environment all the time. Yeah. And which is a kind of common mistake, I guess. He's like, I want to live here. Everyone want to live on a resort. You want to visit a resort. Yeah. we love the air. The house was beautiful. All that stuff was great. But it was just active all the time. The comparison here is night and day. It's a family community, very quiet. You can go down to the action and come up here to the solitude and peace. Yeah. It's a very quiet neighborhood. It's gated. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's gated, but it has several parks inside. These are huge developments. It has like 5 parks inside of this. So our park down the street where we take Minty, we can see it from the house. And so everybody has a park, a green space for the dogs, with palm trees, and the amphitheater, big swimming pool, just big gathering areas inside the gated community.
Do we have a car? We do not have a car. No. But we are going to get a car.
If you need a car, you can get a car. You don't have to have a car. It can be convenient to have a car, but there's times of the day in Mazatlán where you're not going to get any further having a car than if you were in an Uber. You're in the same predicament. Mm-hmm. So it just helps you, I guess, mentally move quicker, but you're not. You're stuck in the same traffic.
But what we need a car for, we're learning that what we need a car for now that our daughter's here and she's starting school. I had a personal driver. So I had a personal driver all school year. I knew my driver would come, pick me up from home, take me to school, and be there at the end of the day. And we do it all over again the next day. And that worked out okay. We discussed not a payment plan, but what is salary or
The
not salary,
the
but whatever.
weekly stipend.
Yes, what we would pay. We agreed on that, and that was the amount that was paid for that, and it worked out. But now we're finding ourselves needing a car because my daughter's needing to get to school. I need to get to school, and we do a lot of stuff outside the house. We pay what's called Didi here, DIDI. It's like Uber, and we also take Uber. That money starts to add up after a while, and
Still not much, but
yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's very cheap, but I think having a car, because we're not walking distance to anything. We're not. We're kind of far out. We were considered probably like in the country, where we are. So we're not close to anything.
But the options for not having a car are varied. There's plenty of opportunity where the need for a car is going to be nullified. Everybody, Didi, Uber delivers. Each stores have their own delivery. Drugstores deliver, no charge. They have the motorcycles. Everybody has this big fleet of motorcycles, and they just run all your stuff around. So there's nothing you can't get delivered. Right. Now, when you think about convenience, where I want to go now. Yeah, you can get in your car and start out now, but it's not going to make you get there any sooner. And that's the pace of Mazatlán. That's the pace. You have to, we're not content when we get in a traffic jam in the States, and we expect the same thing here with a less established infrastructure. They're still catching up.
I'll give an example of like yesterday, having a car would have been perfect because my daughter and I needed to go to Spanish lesson. She needed to go to her new student orientation from 9 to 1. Spanish lesson started at 1:30. We needed to go pick up packages from Post and Ship. So we had to divide and conquer. I took a Didi to take her to school. I came back home, took another Didi to go back to get her, went to Spanish lesson, took another Didi to come back home from Spanish lesson. He takes a Didi to go to pick up our mail and takes another one back. So having a car would have helped with that tremendously yesterday. And those are the kind of things that I say, if we had a car, it would be easier. So a lot of the times our Didis will cancel on us or will cancel. And that's happened before. Lots of times when I needed one before I got my driver for work, they would cancel before I got to work. I'm stuck trying to get to work, So yeah, it has its advantages, its pros and cons of having a car, but we could definitely use one.
So yesterday I took a Didi down to Post and Ship, and that was 94 pesos there. So that's like $4. And then a Didi back, and another $4. So that's $8 to when you compare to say Chicago taxi, you're gonna be easily up $40-$50.
Yeah, $8 will allow you to get in one side of the car and get out the other side.
Yeah, right. You get the comparison, and also the food services, groceries, and all that. Grocery delivery is free.
Yeah, I've heard in several places in the more rural areas that it's a little harder to get consistent transportation, and it's easier to drive because you can't convince me to drive in Mexico City.
Right, that's another thing.
I know Kevin's saying he doesn't drive in Guadalajara. Yeah, you're not. I'm not doing it. Yeah,
there's a level of the reality of it is. It's a matter of your preference, and then if you have a car, there's people who have cars and they don't use them because it's just not worth it. Just leave it parked. Use it when you have to, when there's no other option. But the availability of travel services and movement in the city are too easy. Why bother? Or you can live if you like living in the mix, and that's not us. We don't like living in the mix. We want to live out, watch the mix, and go into the mix and, when we want to. So forget that. have the piece of the countryside and go to the city. It's just like we did in the States.
Well, we got stranded in the storm, and that's the video I posted last night.
Oh, I have a question about the disaster preparedness because of the video that you shared.
Yeah, we were stranded at a restaurant. We had dinner, and while we were having dinner, it started raining, and it rained that hard within a matter of 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes. And we couldn't get the couple we were with. None of us could get a Uber. We couldn't get a Didi. None of them. I couldn't get a hold of the taxi. Nobody. They would accept the ride and they would cancel. So the husband, one of the friends, he went out and flagged what's called a Riga, and it's this red truck. And
I was gonna say it looked like a tuk-tuk.
Yeah, a little truck, comfortable too. And he flagged them down, and that's how we got home. We went to their house. He took us to their house, our friend's house, and then we were able to get a taxi cab to meet us at their house, where it wasn't flooded as much over there, and to bring us home. And he had to go on the outskirts of the city to bring us home because
they know the city
was so flooded.
On the other hand, had we driven down and parked in the available parking, our car would have been flooded, and we'd have walked maybe. Yeah. That was untenable. So the car wouldn't have solved any of that, other than if you knew the rain was coming, which you do not in Mexico. we're on the ocean, and we got a mountain range behind us.
You do not.
That weather can change like that.
Yeah. It dumped that water in 30 minutes to cover the curb. And the Ariga, it was funny, when that Ariga arrived, he backed into the restaurant
so that we can
the ladies can get in without having their feet get wet.
Yeah. That water is so high.
When you say cover the curb, and you consider that curbs are like 3 feet tall.
No, the curbs. Okay, consider that the road their curbs are high,
really high,
are low. It's a strange thing, and they're perfectly flat. So it's like a little swimming pool. Yeah. So when it covers the curb, you can't see where the curb is now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the water is actually, they have everything elevated, like the restaurant's elevated. Yeah. So the water comes up to the water is just at the area where you walk past the gate. The water is right there in the restaurant. Yeah. The Riga backed into that gated area
so that we can get in.
That water came up so fast. They're flat on sea level. The beach is just on the other side of those buildings from us. The other side of the street is the beach.
That's
so the water was just, and now they said that it will drain within an hour. All that water just went away. But you're looking at it like, we got to walk to the car, or we're gonna walk down to a hotel and get a room and wait it out, or just go to a bar and sit out and wait out. The restaurant was like, you don't have to go anywhere. They let us stay there.
Yeah,
the way in Mexico. But it was an adventure. That's our first time getting caught in a flash rain like that. And I wouldn't call it a flash flood. It's just a lot of water that didn't in a short amount of time. So we looked up like, what's happening? Oh wow, okay. It was dry when we came in. But so it's an adventure. It is something you just go with the flow. You take it. You figure things out. Yeah. Be quick on your feet and be flexible. It's different. Yeah.
We would be remiss if we don't get to this story today before we end. You got something else, Dee? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Aileen is asking if your neighborhood is walkable. Do you necessarily need a car? So,
the neighborhood is hilly. I've walked the neighborhood twice.
They're mild hills. They're not.
But for an asthmatic, it's just it's terrible.
Yeah,
and the humidity. And the humidity, it's terrible. So I can't walk it anymore. He walked it once when he walked me to the gate because we couldn't get a ride to work. He walked with me to the gate, and I caught the ride on the other side of the gate. It's hilly where we live. We're nice and elevated. We are, again, like I said, we're pretty far from Walmart. We could walk it, but because of the heat, you wouldn't want to walk it. The humidity in the heat is not close at all.
It's about 3.5 miles. I wouldn't walk it because even if you were carrying your groceries back, it's not. I wouldn't walk in the States. So it's just the way we buy groceries. But a lot of here you can buy stuff every day. You don't have to just bulk up and everything. That don't do a whole lot of that. It's hilly, but that means it's dry too.
Mm-hmm.
This is a non-commercial community. There's nothing commercial in here, so everything is outside that gate. So you don't get salesmen showing up at your door or any of that nonsense either. So it's kind of great.
Wow. Let's see. So David and Nikki moved. They used a moving company. They moved their things, and they moved their beautiful dog, Minty. I literally asked for her to come on because we had just had the conversation with Lamar and Angela about moving their things. I'm going to have you give tips and then tell the story about Minty. I'm hoping that there's been enough time between what occurred and healing.
Yes.
So tell us, if you have any using a moving company tips now that you can look back. Please share those, because if you're gonna take things,
yes,
okay, we want to hear that.
Yes, so we moved. I chose this company because in the Mazatlán groups, I'm in a lot of Mexico groups and a lot of Mazatlán specific groups. And I asked around for recommendations on moving companies. Got several, but I narrowed it down to 3 that I was really interested in. And one of the companies was just too expensive. The other company never got back with us. We reached out, they talked to us, they replied back to us one time and never again. So the other company that we ended up choosing was talking about price and was very responsive and timely. And I read all the reviews and everybody was happy with this company. And I thought, okay, this is the company we should go for. We hired this company and they were, great all the way up to the moment that they came to pick up our dog. They came on May 31st to pick up the dog. And then the next day, they got her on the 30th. And the next day on the 31st, they came to pick up our furniture. And then the next day, June 1st, we flew out to fly here. The process of taking our dog from Illinois to Mazatlan requires 2 drivers on 2 different legs. So the first leg was from Illinois to Eagle Pass, Texas. Mm-hmm. There was 1 driver. And this driver met us at our house, came to pick up Minty. We spent time with him getting to know Minty. We taught him the commands that we use with Minty, and she just took a liking to him right away. And you could tell that this person is a dog person. He knew how to handle dogs. And I took video and pictures of them interacting together, and I felt comfortable with this man, with Minty, and I knew Minty would be okay with him. Mm-hmm. He took Minty, they left. He took videos and pictures and sent them to us the whole time. They were in the hotel, and Minty was happy with him. So he goes and makes it to Eagle Pass, Texas. Now he's handing her over to the second driver for the border crossing. Mm-hmm. We made sure that we had a prescription for Minty to be on an anxiety pill, because she is anti-anxiety, because she's anxious. She doesn't take them every day at home because we just, she's happy to be up under us, but we knew she would need it for the trip. So we sent anti-anxiety medication, her dog food, her collar, of course, her leash, and her bowl, and her crate. And we instructed the drivers that you need to give her anxiety medication once a day. Well, it was time for her to have her medication at the handoff. And that first driver said, hey, you need to go ahead and give her medication now. And the second driver said, okay, I will. Well, he made a mistake and didn't give it to her. And the second thing he did was he let her out to go pee. He got her out from that car, let her out without her leash on. Now, he took the leash off, or the leash was off, but he didn't put it on her. He just let her jump out to go pee. Well, she got out, she went pee, and then he's trying to get her back. Come on, She's looking at him like, no, I'm not getting back in there. And so he grabs her, and he had to have grabbed her in a rough way because she bit him, according to him. She bit him, is what he says. She bit him, and she slipped out of her collar. So now he's just left with her collar and her tags hanging. And she's gone. She's gone. And he could not catch her.
Oh.
And ever catch her after that. And so that happened on June 2nd. We had already been here for 24 hours on June 1st. They called us and said, hey, is your dog aggressive? We're like, no, she's very calm and sweet. She's not aggressive. Why? Well, she bit the handler and she ran away from him. And the first thing he said was, what did your handler do to our dog? And he said, oh, no, he was trying to, he explained the story I just explained. And long story short, he was trying to cover himself, his tail, because he made up a story and said our dog just bit him and ran away. Well, that wasn't the truth. Well, they went looking for the dog and was calling for the dog for hours. And then they enlisted the help of the family that lives there in Eagle Pass and friends, and nobody could get Minty to come back. So finally, let's fast forward some time, because Minty was gone for 40 days. 40 days lost in Eagle Pass, Texas. And the moving company had pretty much just kind of backed away and was doing very little to help. Well, we had gotten into a community of people of Eagle Pass, Texas. We got into the Facebook communities and asked the people to look for this dog. The dog community. And we sent out the flyers, the lost dog flyers, all of that. We did our due diligence to help find our dog. And finally, that paid off, because people were texting us and calling us and sending us videos of dogs all along for these 40 days.
Eagle Pass's dog game is strong.
Yes. And they apparently had a lot of German Shepherds, because they were sending us lots of pictures of German Shepherds. It was never Minty until that day that it was. And the man called, he says, I'm looking at a dog that looks just like your dog. And I said, well, would you please take a video and send it to me? He took a video, sent it to me, and I said, this is our dog. So I told David. Now, David had already flown out to Eagle Pass, Texas once.
Oh, because the first video was Minty crossing the
street. Yeah, somebody sent in a video, but they could not, she wouldn't come to anybody, and she was like hiding all the time. So he had flown out once with no luck. Mm-hmm. Then the second time he flew out, and working with these sweet people that found her, they were feeding her. They were giving her water every day. They were going out and they were sending us pictures. And they said, we'll keep feeding her till you get here. We'll take care of her. She won't come to us, but we'll keep leaving food. And that's exactly what happened. I'll let you pick up with when you got there, what happened.
So these people, they're the first people that Minty would let them see her. She would stay out in the open. And Minty must have just picked up on they were dog people, because she would stay out in the open. They could videotape her, just film her and send us the film. We're like, well, that's Minty. So we told them Minty's verbal commands and taught the hand signals for her, and told them to see how she acted when they did it. Well, they did the verbal commands and they did the hand signals, and she stopped and sat out in the open for a long time. And she still figured out that's not my people, and she left. But they kept putting food out. So we flew into town. I flew into town. I bought one of Nikki's shirts with me. Mm-hmm. And we went. They took us to where they've been citing Minty, and I tied I tied Nikki's shirt around the fence post at the feeding station where she had been coming to get food. And I had gone to Walmart and I bought a trail cam. It takes pictures of animals on the animal trail. And sent it directly to your phone. So I set that on the fence post next to the food. And probably about 12:30 that night, it triggers and says there's motion at this trail cam, and it's Minty. First it's a coyote, and then it's Minty behind the coyote. And it was like 12 o'clock at night. I woke up Nikki. I said, "That's Minty. We got Minty. She's here." And she stayed in that area for 4 hours. She stayed in that area. So that next morning, the family who had been helping us, who had been seeing her all these times, they met me in the morning and we went out there and we moved the trail cam. There's a fenced area. We crossed that fenced area. We saw Minty's paw prints in the mud, and we followed it to an area where the grass was pressed down. So she had bedded down there. I put that trail cam on that tree so it would show where she was laying down, and we left it there, put more water and food out. By 12:30, huh?
You set up
No, this is before, way before. And so about probably an hour later, the trail cam triggers as Minty in the daytime. She's at the spot and she's looking and she's eating the food and she's moving around the camera. We have video of her doing this. And so I said, okay, so now we have her, she's staying in the area. So I call animal control. I said, I have pictures of Minty because they knew when I call animal, Minty was a celebrity in this area by this time. So, the German Shepherd? Yes, the German Shepherd. Minty, are you calling about Minty? Yeah, Minty. So they're like, okay, I have pictures of her on the trail cam. She's in this area. Can you bring a trap out? And we can trap her, a live trap. And they said, yes, we can. They were like, if you know that's her. They bought this trap out. We put Nikki's shirt inside the trap, put the food inside the trap. And that was probably about 2, maybe 3:30 in the afternoon. And we put the trail cam on the trap to show, so we could pick, if it got triggered. I went back to the hotel. The family in the Eagle Pass had loaned me a car, so when the trap triggered, I could go and pick her up. And so I went back to the hotel. I'm having dinner. About 4:30, the trail cam trigger sends me a picture of Minty, and she's running around the trap. She smells mommy's shirt in there and the food. We all put her favorite food, chicken, and so she's too smart to go in the trap, so she circles it a couple of times. But the minute I got the picture of her circling the trap, I got in the car and drove over. And I'm calling her and I'm calling my friends and bro. I said, hey, she's circling the trap. By the time I got there, she's in the trap. Yeah.
And the rest is history. They brought the company. While he's there saying, getting her, I called the company. I said, we have her. I need you and your company to get the dog and my husband home. Mm-hmm. Finish the job. And we will do it. We can get them home as early as tomorrow morning. So, and that's what happened. That's what happened. They got a driver and they drove them home. And I posted the video to the reunion video to my Facebook page. And yeah, she's been acclimated.
So happy. Mommy. I mean,
and I asked you this question before we went live today was how is her emotional health?
She still thinks about it. And I know it's funny to say, but she still thinks about it. And she thinks we're going to disappear all of a sudden. She still doesn't understand. So understand, we got her back, but we bring her back to her mommy in a different house. All the furniture is different. None of the smells are the same. Nothing. She's so confused, but she goes, that's mommy, but where are we? Yeah. Like, why are we? Can we go home?
Right.
Yeah.
So she's still settling. She's gotten way better than she was, but she thinks about it all the time. Yeah, and if we leave and go to the grocery store and come back, she's like, you've been gone too long. Yeah, she does the whole reunion thing
all over again.
She does it all over. Yeah. But she's getting better. She sleeps with us every night now. So
she has to sleep.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. Greta wants to see Minty. Greta wants to see Minty. Hey, baby.
Hey.
There she is.
You all, I'm telling you, this.
Yeah.
I would ask Nikki how Minty was doing, and then I would wait because I didn't want to trigger. I mean, those
Oh, no.
emotions when you're attached.
Uh-huh.
And we haven't had a dog in like 4 years, and I was crying. I mean, I was so happy, but you all don't have to wait.
Yeah.
They are sharing Minty's story. So can you tell us about the book?
Yes. So I got the idea from the people in Eagle Pass, Texas. They said, you've got to share this with the world. You've got to share this story because this is just unbelievable. And I thought, I think I'll write a book about it. So that probably the next night, I started writing a book about the adventures of Minty, lost in Eagle Pass, Texas. So I'm still working on it. I have like the closing of it. And I talked to Dee about it, and she gave me some ideas, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. So I jotted some notes down. So yes, she is writing her book, and there's going to be a book about it. Minty, the superstar.
The move to Mazatlán was incomplete.
Oh,
Until we got.
Oh man!
But yeah, now our move is complete with Minty back in the picture.
It's complete.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's together. I think we need more books, especially for children that are transitioning, people that are transitioning with pets, to have, I'm still a book person, like physically in my hand. Digital books are great, but it's a great resource. So if you're thinking about moving with a child, with a pet, with a parent, write something that could be shared. This story was inspiring to me, even though we're not moving with a pet. And as you can tell from our audience, Greta says, where's the movie? We need to have the Minty adventures, but with all the video you have, David.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
This could be the Insecure, what do you call that? YouTube published movie of Minty's story. So
do it in Lego.
In hindsight, flyer, but that's just guilt. I would have just have her flown. I should have went ahead and had her flown. That way, one person would transit her all the way to Mexico. And in hindsight,
Nikki had another really why didn't I think of that solution?
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to share it?
What was it?
If you were going to do it over again?
The GPS chip or?
Oh, are you talking about with the GPS chip?
The AirTag.
Oh, yes. That was one of the tips I do want to share. And for everybody who is going to do this, where you will be separated from your dog when you travel, have an AirTag for your dog. Put an AirTag on the dog, because had we done that, that would have saved a lot of money, time, stress, and all of the above. And we would have been able to locate her, obviously, much easier. And I didn't think about it at the time. It was just not something that crossed our mind. But we have one ordered, an AirTag, and we're also looking into getting the GPS chip. Now, that would cost a little bit more money, but we are looking into it.
If we ever do this again, it's not going to be something that can, because she lost her rabies tag, her owner tags with her information. She lost all that with the collar.
Right.
I would do the GPS chip, something active, because she was in the highway. There was a highway and the rest of it was open desert. She had opted to stay in the open desert when she figured out she wouldn't encounter people anymore.
She did.
That's what she did. She had a little creek. That's where she got her water. She was eating rabbits and stealing the coyotes' food. We figured out all the stuff she was doing. And then they started feeding her, and she got in that holding pattern in that area where we could see her. And we had a chance to catch her because people in Eagle Pass love dogs.
And another tip I want to offer that we didn't do, but we do now. Instead of a collar put a vest on your dog, a harness on your dog.
That she would travel with that
Because
that whole harness.
he could have gotten her quicker had he grabbed that harness, because there's a little handle on the harness. He could have gotten her. She couldn't have slipped out of the harness at all.
Correct.
So put your dog in a harness.
Depending on the size of the dog, I've had.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah,
I had a little dog that I was that slipped out of her harness, but when you know how to secure it, the harness is much better than a for sure.
The collar.
Yeah.
What was the switching from one driver to the next because of the distance?
That's how this company does. Yes, it is distance, because he has people staged in different states to take over.
Because I think it also would have been easier if one person if there had not been a transition. That transition
it would have been.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here in the United States, transition of power just doesn't work out for us real well.
When you see the first handler, how Minty accepted him and everything, we felt so comfortable. And then we didn't think about the second handler.
Right.
And I actually, when I flew into Eagle Pass, I was running around with that guy looking for Minty. He was not a dog person. No. You dog people know dog people. He was not a dog person.
Got it.
And they put out a $2,000. It started off at $1,000 reward for her. The company put it up. And then they went up to $2,000 reward, and they posted it as $2,000 reward for the return of Minty, no questions asked. Well, they are choosing not to pay the reward money now.
Wow.
Yes, they're choosing not to do that. And we feel bad for the people who we were working with, because they earned this reward money.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to actually give them
we
money,
supplemented the reward.
And they were like, no, you guys have spent enough money. We'll wait for the company to give us the reward money. And the company is not honoring their word.
Will remain nameless at this point for legal reasons. But they did not honor their part of the reward.
Wow. Sorry. Well, I'm really glad that you got your family member back with you. That's a big deal. I wanted to make sure we shared that story, not because it's going to happen to everybody, but I think that the learning process that you had with that was really valuable to where this is.
Absolutely.
Because I think that overall you all have faced a lot of challenges and weathered them, in a measurable kind of way. And this was kind of like that. You all were doing well. I eavesdropped you all's conversation, Nikki, and I could hear you trying to keep it to the balance, trying to keep it to the even. And I applaud you, because that when we had our dog, we adopted her from my sister and brother-in-law, because they had to make some changes once they had children, and she would run off, and she was a golden lab, a black lab. So her going and running away and trying to do and getting down the road and she wasn't trying to come back. And every time that was an exhausting process. And we were usually
emotionally exhausting, physically exhausting.
And you're talking about something that we would have to do within 30, 40-minute time frame of bringing her somewhere in the neighborhood she slipped off to and back. You're talking about 40 days.
Yeah.
That is, I applaud you on the effort that you put into that.
They have so much to their story. We're actually going to do David's part on Herman's channel.
Yeah.
David's part of the Move Abroad on Herman's channel, because we get a lot of questions about healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of questions. Nikki knows, she and I bonded over asthma, our asthma history. And I was like, you got to tell me, can I get my prescriptions filled? Can I do things like that? But when those are, kind of part of the health maintenance when you have a health crisis, knowing how to access and having a trusted medical provider in the area it's life-saving.
Yes,
It can be life-saving. And so I don't want to shortchange that part of the conversation. I'm going to say, Herman and David, you guys get together on a date so that you guys can talk specifically about that experience,
Yes.
especially from a man's perspective. I want to give air to that because it's something you should already be doing as far as taking care of yourself, but it should be on your top list of things to do is strategizing around, if I'm having a relationship and knowing where to go if I have medical questions. And I just want to say to the divine, I am glad. I am thankful that in spite of the situation and circumstances, that there was a quality care experience, healthcare experience.
An angel.
There was quality medical staff
it's only the grace of God. It's
to
only
support you.
Yeah.
And that in spite of all of those things, you are standing here and speaking with us today. Y'all don't miss the conversation Herman's going to have with David. I'm not trying to create false, but I'm telling you, this is a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It needs to be said.
Even just having Minty back is an act of God, only by God's grace. 40 days.
Yes. Yeah.
If you understand the desert, when we say desert, when
you say desert, when you say coyote, when you say traffic, and she came back with some emotional trauma and her physicalness is in place. 40 days is a long time.
Well, no damage, no wounds, no disease.
Yeah.
Only by God's grace.
Don't
Family, we are
Mazatlán, y'all.
Yeah. Because I still want to have you come back and talk about Mazatlán itself some.
Oh yeah, there's Mazatlán. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. Okay, so is Mazatlán a worthwhile move?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, emphatically yes.
Hands down.
Okay, compare it to something. We got to do a little bit. We can't go without a little bit.
My goodness. For us as a people, the community, the ability to go out and just be invisible. No one's actively trying to be aware of your presence. I try to say this correctly. You understand what I'm saying?
Don't bite your tongue. We grown folk here. Yeah.
That you have to actually get accustomed to being unnoticed.
Yes. They do not bother us, no matter where we are. And I have been in the doctor's offices. I've been in hospitals. I've been in schools. I've been in shops. I've been in bakeries. Everywhere, the people are still the same. They're sweet. They're accommodating and welcoming, and they don't stare at us. They don't bother us. They don't feel intimidated by our very being. We have a level of the level of stress that we had when we came here is just gone down so much. It is, and I see that even in my 16-year-old daughter.
Wow.
That the child would have the same stressors in a way that we have, and now her stresses are gone down.
That's profound, because often we hear about, the kids are happy. When people talk about they have kids, they talk about the kids are happy, but they talk about their own personal stress. And to say you recognize a stress difference in your teenager, I think that's still something we take for granted. That's a big deal.
Yes.
That's a big
clarity here. And, of course, the food is a given. The weather, somebody asked about the weather. I would say one of the disadvantages, and this is for me personally, because I'm a severe asthmatic, I have a hard time breathing in the hot air anyway. And with the humidity, that makes it a lot worse. From the end of May until October is the hot season, and it is so hot and humid. It's a struggle for me, and it's hot. We stay inside most of the time until a certain time, but the weather.
Temperatures are like what?
Okay, give them an example of like what the weather was.
Okay, so I think the highest I've experienced here this season is 94 degrees, but it's not so much the heat; it's the dew point, the humidity. So the dew point. So if you have, you have 90 degrees and 87% dew point, your sweat can't leave your body.
Yes.
So your body can't regulate the heat. So they stay in the shade. You cannot have the sun on you during the hot season. Now, with that being said, it's the whole Spanish Mexican culture. Nothing really happens during the day, and you just got to get into that pace. It's that pace. You might get in the car and go to the store and go inside the store and then get in the car and go home. You're not staying outside, or you find somewhere. Go down on the seashore where the breeze is constant and just stay on the beach and stay in the water, stay under your umbrella is great. So that heat can be uncomfortable. I don't mind it so much.
Is it hot like Merida?
I would say not as hot. This year hasn't been as hot.
We've heard, because we've not been to Merida, but everybody that we know and the people we follow in Merida say that it's hotter in Merida.
That's what I hear.
But we're on the coast. You have to understand. We're on the coast, and we have a mountain range behind us.
Yes.
So that air is constantly resetting. If you go, so we had to get in the habit of what dinner time is here. So we want to go down to the beach and have dinner, and so we go at like 5 o'clock, and nobody's out, and the restaurants are like, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
You know, like, it's hot. Why are you here?
Yeah.
But so now we go to dinner. Say we might just catch the sunset. We go to dinner at 6:30 to catch the 6:50 sunset. So we go down there, and people are already on the beach waiting for the sunset. By the time we get done with dinner, and we're going to leave at say 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. All of a sudden, there's all these people just show up. No one comes out till after the sun goes down. So you go down to the shoreline. There's people in the water, but nobody's in the streets. But at around 8:30, all of a sudden, all these people just show up. So they do everything at night. The kids are out playing, and they just do this.
Yeah. Oh, just Spanish. Oh, the Spanish. Well, that's a good question. My Spanish has gotten a whole lot better just since coming here in January. We had prepared before. For Spain. So we had prepared probably 6 months before moving here, practicing Spanish and learning Spanish. And then when I got here, of course, being immersed in it, working amongst them, the Mexicans, and learning Spanish and taking Spanish lessons. So my Spanish has come along. His Spanish is coming along a lot as well. My daughter's Spanish. She took Spanish in high school in the States. So it's still fresh in her mind, and she's still currently taking Spanish lessons. And
who do you promote? Who do you promote? I'm sorry. Who do you promote as a Spanish lesson provider? Are you using any particular app?
Well, we started as far as the apps go. We started in the States with Duolingo, and it's one more. I forget the other one, but
Deeple is a translator.
Yeah, that's a translator. Deeple is a good translator. We still use Deeple every day.
Ella verbs.
We have to depend on it because we're not fluent in Spanish yet. So we pull out our phone and we'll pull up the Deeple app and type that in the text for me, because I don't type that in the chat for me. Okay. Yes. And so we still rely on that because we're not fluent.
Sometimes you get into a more detailed request, so you'll have to use the translator.
Yes.
The thing about the locals is if you ask any local, you're having a conversation with a local, they will take the time out of the day to make sure you get what you need and that you understand how to say what you ask them correctly in the future. They all do it. Yeah. It makes it very easy. You just got to take, when they're giving you tips, this is how we say that here. They will tell you that.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
you just make sure you take good notes, and it's okay. Now it's like in the States, we go different places and everybody has slang. There's certain local slang and you learn that. So you can take classical Spanish, but you have to learn the Spanish in your area.
Correct.
And it's not that hard. There's a couple of words that change, but they'll correct you. Here's we say this. We say this word. And then you get the patterns of what you hear. You're like, okay, I understand what you're saying. And also to ask them to speak slowly.
Mm-hmm.
They'll slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to question now, habla inglés? And they say no. And then, but just a little. And then, so we can work with that. There's always something to work with. Even the ones that don't speak any English at all, they still work with you.
Oh yeah.
Two fantastic teachers that if anybody wants the name of these teachers and they reach out to you all, let me know and I'll be happy to forward the names of these two teachers that we have face-to-face lessons, but they also teach online. Amazing teachers. Yes,
and I watch the local news every day. I read the papers in Spanish, and it starts to sink in. It does. It's not as rough as I imagined it to be. It is.
Right.
And,
let's see. Kevin said.
Despacio.
Family, it is always great to have you on, and we'll probably have you on 30 more times.
We're here for it.
Thank you for sharing your story. Transparent, honest stories have helped me. I will take liberty of speaking for everybody who's viewing, but it definitely has been helpful to me. And I've shared that with you. But again, to be able to express that publicly, I appreciate your friendship and I appreciate the sharing of the experience that you all are having. Because regardless of where Dee and I land, having a process style, I think a process style in mind as an individual and as a couple help us decide how we, where we transit. Because regardless of where you land, without a plan, without a process, and without cooperation, especially in a partnership, it helps to make that work, because you can end up anywhere and the world is still what it is. But if the core is good,
that's your
if the core is good, then then the fruit's gonna be good. If the core is rotten, then it is what it is. And that's
Thank
from
you to everybody for their questions. Thank you. Yes,
absolutely. To everybody in the chat today, thank you so much for great questions and hanging with us. We don't usually do 2 hours, but y'all don't know, we usually online behind the scenes for another 40 days, 40 nights.
It feels like our conversations.
They probably could have looked for Minty while they were on with us from the last time they were on with us. We appreciate you all.
Everyone.
Once again, please subscribe to David and Nikki's channel. It's a wonderful travel life with Nikki and David. I wrote it several times last night. And to both on YouTube and Instagram. And as always, please, if you are new, subscribe to H&D Abroad. Dee and I thank you for your cooperation. Go to Stephanie Perry's today and see Dee. She did a pop in talking about house sitting on Stephanie Perry's live this morning. The girl is everywhere, y'all. I spend my life chasing her. It's worth it. I love it. Jay Stokes, good to see you, man. Go back and watch the live. You'll love it today. We'll see you all soon. H&D Abroad here with Nikki and David.
Bye.
Y'all be good.
Bye for now, everyone.
Bye-bye.